Welcome. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm Danielle Patterson, CEO at Family Office List, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to today's episode. Our masterclass is hosted by FamilyOfficeList.org, and we have a special guest, Kamil Homsi, who is a visionary leader who's really helping to shape the single family office sector and is going to teach us a lot about intergenerational leadership and entrepreneurial focus. What really stands out about Kamil is his clear vision for building opportunities that empower the next generation to lead with integrity and purpose. And he's designed a one-of-a-kind family incubator that's designed to support young entrepreneurs within the family. I've had the pleasure of meeting Kamil in New York, and I've heard him speak at various events. For those unfamiliar with his work, or for those, I'm sorry, who are familiar, you know how charismatic he is, so we're definitely in for a treat. And those who are hearing from Kamil for the very first time, I'm excited to share a little bit more about his background. Kamil is the founder and CEO of GRC Investment Group, a global single-family office headquartered in Dubai with an onshore presence in New York. GRC is recognized for its thoughtful approach to cross-border investments with a focus on global capital markets, public-private partnerships, and alternative investments. Under Kamil's leadership, the firm prioritizes high-impact opportunities in sectors like renewable energy, real estate, AI, and machine learning. So before we dive into our conversation, just a few quick housekeeping notes. As many of you have found, the chat is enabled. So if you haven't, please introduce yourself, and it's a great area for you to network. But often the chat gets very busy and noisy, so please feel free throughout our conversation today to drop any of your questions in the Q&A. We do these live so that we can really make this conversational and engage you in our conversation, so we'd love to have your participation there. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. Kamil, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here. And I see on the chat a lot of greetings. I don't have access to my keyboard. I cannot answer you, but I love you all and thank you for attending. Yes. Being here with you, Danielle, is something that you and I have been talking about for some time. And I hope today we can share value with your audience and also give them valuable takeaways for them to remember.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate your generosity in sharing all of your wisdom with us. And so I'd love to start the conversation really a bit about the early years. You know, you have such a unique background, Kamil, a visionary who's really built companies across different continents, and you've stayed deeply connected to your family values. And I'd love to know, you know, with your journey starting in United Arab Emirates over the years, you know, coming to the United States, becoming a US citizen, what were those early experiences like growing up? And, you know, what brought you to America?
You know, growing up in the Middle East in a conservative society that is definitely I would say the family is father dominated, where the father is the authority of every family, regardless. If the grandfather is alive, so he is the authority of several families. If he has 10 children, them and their children, he names the children, he blesses the family, everyone go back to him. I was the renegade who always wanted to break out of that, attended, along with my siblings and many others of our contemporaries, parochial schools. And in the parochial schools, if they were like missionary from Europe or they are educational institutions from the United States and other, you learn languages and you also get exposure to what is the West is all about. So when I came to America, I was looking for that entrepreneurial company that has resilience. At the time, it was not called yet to be the land of unicorn. It was called more the land of Clint Eastwood and everybody else. So, you know what, definitely fascinated by Hollywood and by New York. You're going to New York. You're going to the, the center of the world finance. I got involved when I came here in manufacturing. And before you know, I became a source for a lot of the businesses that our families in the Middle East and periodically in Europe, and then here became a source of consumer goods. Took advantage through working with much older business people that I still call them mentors. Most of them had passed away since then. They were successful. They were the core of New York business. We took advantage at the time of the Reaganomics, where we can open factories in the Caribbean and then be exempt from paying, duty taxes or, get more employment incentives. So all that, Reagan had an idea that if you create jobs somewhere, you reduce the influx of immigrants coming to the United States. Not close the door, but give them an opportunity to make money and to make a living in their own countries. Being in Dominican Republic and in Honduras with the distribution office in Panama, I was among others that were invited at the time by the Chamber of Commerce to go to the new open economy by Richard Nixon earlier, 7-8 years earlier to that. And, his team, McNamara and Dean Rusk and Kissinger, to open trade with China. So the Chinese government was organizing invitations that, they show you around for 2 weeks, all expenses paid. They show you, at the time, they only had two zones really for free trade. And, we had Shenzhen that it's still till today. And, few fragmented free zones on the border between Hong Kong and the mainland. That encouraged me from then, even though everyone older than I am among that group said, don't sign a joint venture. Go back to America, speak to your attorneys. And I said, what do my attorneys know about joint venture in China? I like what they're offering me. And I only signed for a small factory. I told them that small factory was 300 employees. That led into reducing the exposure and the existence in the Caribbean because the offering of China was a lot more generous at the time, and maybe till now for some people, I do not know. And fast forward 12 years of living in Hong Kong and operating, going to the factories and coming back, developed 3 different entities. One of them became a consulting firm for those who come from America, Europe, and the Middle East and elsewhere, looking for hand-holding to manufacture in China. If we speak about this in details, we'll be here until Saturday.
I was going to say all the stories and
experience. Here until the mid-90s, when I was burned out. There was many hours. Look, when you are, for me, when I'm in love with the business, I only work 7/24. I don't care for sleeping. I don't care for vacations. I'm not a spoiled who is going to look for the cars and this and that. I love the work. I love productivity, and I love that at that young age, in my mid-20s at the time, that I am the reliable one. That they gravitate to me. They send me money in advance to, for the manufacturing program, fabric, accessories, logistics, containers, shipping, what is going through Panama Canal, what is landing in Long Beach or in Oakland, California, then hauled on the train to New York. And, there was so much in logistics that also educated me, not only with deal with people and be global, what added also my proficiency in several languages. And developed, I think, an ability and skills of how to make friends and how to retain those relationships. We always say you spend money on recruiting, but retention is more expensive because then you have to go back to the beginning and then spend the time. I'll stop here on that boring story.
No, we need a whole, summit dedicated to your journey, Kamil. That's fascinating. Thank you.
When I decided to sell, I definitely sold for a premium. that was very, very generous at the time because of the reputation I built for my operations. And that's when the family overseas said to me, "You're too young to retire.
Yes.
We have a lot happening in Europe. We need your oversight." And, from that point on, I would say that was maybe the milestone or the cornerstone but I did not talk about family office, anything. In the Middle East, you can, because everybody wants to be the boss. My dad wants to be the boss. Your dad want to be the boss. I mean, when men, testosterone get in the way, we don't get anything accomplished. I tell them, get out of my way. It took me about 4 years until maybe the late 90s when I started bringing what I learned in my life in Hong Kong from my English, American, Australian, European friends, even the people from Singapore that were next door, and they also do manufacturing in China, learned from them the concept of high net worth and the single family.
Fascinating. What a journey. And what really sticks with me from hearing you tell this story and your very unique skill set, something actually that you said in one of your earlier speeches that I saw live in New York, you said that success comes from understanding complex dynamics, whether in business or family. And that definitely rings true with all of your experience and why you've succeeded. And it's interesting that it's very much driven by relationships, which you value so much. And, all these dynamics that are very complex at play. I would love to know how now your experience have led into the way you lead your family. And I've heard a term which I absolutely love and hope you can explain to us. The story behind the benevolent dictator, which to me is just fascinating and powerful. And really, how did the name come around, and really, how does this leadership style play out in your decision making and the way that you lead your family?
I knew you were going to allude to this. This has been, maybe part of me, and part of what I always believe, that democracy is beautiful, but sometimes democracy is time consuming. Here in America, you have 535 people. They have to get together to make a decision on something that other countries, they do it in 1 day. 1 day, and it will cost less. Let's put it this way. So, and many examples we all have, you and I and the audience. When there are always situations where there is lack of consensus. You have an aggressive branch of the family who is innovative, who has a higher percentage of multi-generational, and then you have the conservative. And I come in as the tiebreaker, but that tiebreaker doesn't come in always to mollify and to please everybody. Even though in negotiations, I am known. When I conduct dispute resolution issues or crisis management, I always like to leave the table with everybody winning, because I look for the next deal. I look for the next situation. And we also have the empathy and the heart for the other. I don't want someone to leave the table losing or thinking he or she lost with me. I want everyone to get what they want if we can, and we exercise compromise. But the benevolent dictator, for me, when I think the first time in America that I mentioned this was on the podium of Fordham University in New York, where a lady who is I had met her before. I remember where she was sitting in that amphitheater. I think they call it Gabelli. And that was the first time we deliver the family office concept to the students, the faculty, the alumni, and other guests from other universities. Where the lady asked me, as an advisor for, again, global families, she said, "Kamil, the family is constantly growing. How do you maintain the rule of the ordinance and the governance?" I said, it's a great question. I walked back to the podium. I looked at the audience, and I said, sometimes a leader has to put the hat of the benevolent dictator. And I know anytime you say it as oxymoronious as it sounds, and it is, people will laugh or people will smile, people will grin. I gave them a chance and I said, is any of you going to ask me for a definition? You know, at that point, definitely they asked for microphone. And to make the long story short, I told them, I said, the benevolent dictator is someone whose main goal and main purpose is the family legacy and the growth and the protecting not only the existing generation, but also the future generations.
Yeah.
You know, after listening to every party involved, you have to summarize everything they want and not out to appease anyone, because it is all about the family. It's not about the individuals. If someone doesn't like it, there's always someone who doesn't like what you do. And then they come back to their senses when they see the outcome. And that's where, so sometimes a leader is expected to be a benevolent dictator, in my opinion, but to make educated decisions. Have always committees and have advisors, reach out to the experts, formulate your own, and then take responsibility for it and say, my dear friend, my dear family, I did it for the future of all of us. That's it.
Beautiful approach, and thank you for the explanation. I can relate. I am a middle child, and so keeping the harmony is very important to me. And you know, family dynamics can be hard. Everyone has their own opinion, and what's very unique about your leadership style, and I hope we can kind of discuss, is the way that you include in-laws in some of the management decisions, which, you know, in our earlier discussion, we were talking about some of the, you know, examples here in family offices who maybe will let them dabble in philanthropy, but really, I'd love to hear from you how and why, you know, this inclusion has worked.
As I said earlier, I admire the Europeans and the vintage families. Definitely all these success stories in America, JP Morgan, the Taft, the Rockefeller, and many others, that I'm sure we can go through a whole list, that they did leave legacy. But I always ask myself, I mean, I have two sets of nephews and nieces. One carry my last name, they are the paternal, and one do not carry my last name because it is our girls married to their boys.
Right.
So carry, but both of them call me Uncle Kamil. So when it comes to money, one is my nephew and one is not my nephew.
Right.
You see what I mean? That's how I sell it. And then the brother-in-law, he is called the brother-in-law. I don't know why, but then when there is divorce, he's no longer my brother. But the children, they are not my nephews and my nieces-in-law. They are my nephews and nieces. Right. And all that, like, in my mind, it didn't work right. And
right.
Again, there is always diplomacy and a style of how you present a new idea to the investment committee. The investment committee, for those who are listening, our quorum is 7 people. We are 3 non-rotational, myself and 2 patriarchs. And also we have 4 rotational that the family branches nominate them, elect them. They have a term of 2 years. It can be extended, but not over 4. Because again, we don't want that to become a legacy politics or legacy leadership that, you know, the whole family is stuck with that mindset. I believe always in the other sets of eyes that we do not have on the table. Even though our quarterly meetings and our annuals, they have 2 other rows around the walls with branches presenters, and also the team of mentees that we're preparing for the future. They all have tablets. The tablets have no access to any social media. And they know that randomly I would pick after the meeting names to give me an executive summary of what they heard. So they were not gossiping, they were not dating, they were not sending each other private messages, and I hold them to accountability, which is something you and I can talk about in length, maybe later, I hope.
Absolutely.
Accountability is very important. So we are responsible for what we do. There is no free ride when you are running a single family office. The audience hear a lot about wealth managers that manage families. Those are multi-families. So some manage 80, some manage 100, some manage maybe a different, what is the parameter for a family office? Is it 50 million, or it is 5 billion, or it is something in between? I will leave all these numbers to them to do this. I know for a single family, what is required, what is the cost of it, and what is the reward of having it for the family. So the decisions are made by the investment committee. So when you bring in to the investment committee saying that I really like to get some of the in-laws families with the criteria for certain sectors of our sectors that we invest in within our portfolio. Why? Why, Kamil? Why? You're going to create problems. Say, look, Isaac Newton was not wrong. For every act, there is a react. Equal, but in the opposite direction. But, at the same time, I see it in their eyes. They see us, thank God, we are always in growth and in progress. I like to see them benefiting from this. Maybe they don't have to be equal, but I like to give them a status of affiliates. Meaning, if there is a family, we invest into commercial real estate, we invest into renewable energy, research, implementation, waste management, the same, into healthcare, because we own different emergency centers and also different hospitals in the region. And then we bid on patents, and we also opportunistic that we work on secondaries, where there is an opportunity in a trophy building or into one of the gateway cities of the world that you like to be in as a status, and also as a long-term investment. So we don't have to involve them in everything. Right. Kamil, what's going to happen when there is a divorce? I said, look.
Right. Good question.
Every deal has a contract. Okay. That family that was invited or expressed interest to join us in that particular sector, they will be tied to the branch of the family that is related to them. You are my cousin, but your in-laws are not my in-laws. So we want to bring your in-laws, they will be tied to you. So they will not have the right, for example, to speak to the GP I'm doing business with in America or in Europe, and also the GP is instructed that, look, I am the liaison for that deal. Okay. I represent GRC Investment Group, and you don't owe answers to anybody else. So why? To protect the relationship also, as we spoke about this earlier. Absolutely. Because I don't want to inundate any of my partners with phone calls from just, anonymous people saying, oh, I'm Kamil's partner. I want to know the status of the deal. No, you cannot do that. Right. Now, and it is on a deal by deal and also sector by sector. The branches are involved in the Middle East and in the larger area of the Asia and also Central Asia. Central Asia, most of those countries are wealthy. They were former Soviet Union republics. The Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, and others, they have gold, they have uranium, they have oil and gas, and they do their banking in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates. So we get engaged with them and we do business with them. We invest into their infrastructure, and then they come in to partner with us on deals. So we are involved into maritime shipping, into free zones, into sitcoms and those novellas, short series production in our media city in Dubai, which is very powerful in the Middle East, and in different languages also. Definitely, we have large population from India and the surrounding countries that they are, among the workforce of the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Oman. So just in the United Arab Emirates, we have close to 5.5 million citizens of India working in the United Arab Emirates.
Wow.
You know, yeah, I mean, you have doctors and you have
Yeah.
Uber drivers and you have nannies and you have cooks and you have restaurants and, you know, you will get that wealth of the Indian food anywhere in the world. So,
Amazing.
all that make us exposed to different economic sectors, and the responsibility fall on me to develop skills on myself and knowledge in these fields when I am engaged into negotiations, into partnerships, into investing in other countries. Again, I have, we have different committees that focus on different economic sectors. I hope that answered the question. The in-laws thing, I'm not going to ever abandon, but it has to be controlled just because they have an exit. It's called divorce. In the family with the siblings and the cousins, you don't have that exit.
Exactly.
So your family don't choose, and your family you cannot just get out of.
Wow.
And it is sensitive, and it has to be dealt with sensitivity.
It does. And it's a reality, but you've really taken a great systematic approach to it. And that trust that you give to the in-laws, I mean, I imagine how for the family members, it really does create unity and the way you can rely on each other to help in these committees do this complex due diligence, because the span of areas that you're investing in is very impressive. And a question from the audience, Anna Annette asks, what do you wish was easier in your family office? I'm sure there's a lot of dynamics. Like you said, if we wish divorce didn't exist, but it's probably hard to give one answer.
I would say to Anna, if I would make a wish, just on the fly, I wish all of them are over 18 and under 65. How's that?
Awesome.
Anna, you can always ask me sometimes, say why. It's because I take more responsibility of those that are from birth to 18, protect them, educate them, prepare them to the next stage of their life, and definitely equal but different attention and focus on the aging members of the family. Add to love, add to their existence, and to also capitalize on their knowledge, to pass it along to the youngsters. I know from myself, if Alex asked me, so I said, did you ask your father? He said, Grandpa, I like to ask you. Why?
Oh, I love that.
No, his father is knowledgeable and he's my oldest son. And that goes for the others are a little bit younger. But as they're growing older, they connect with the grandparents. So I expect your children and every other cousin, they connect with their grandparents. So I don't want the grandparents to go into the senior housing. I want them to stay. I want to be cautious in the way we select for them nurses, drivers, cooks, whatever the case might be. Their security, their social life is important also. So I would say to Anna, I wish all the members of the family were in the working class so they can produce and don't add to my headache.
There you go. Oh, well, I love the way you value the wisdom of the elders, and I love that it's just happening naturally. And I know you're so proud of these 6 grandchildren that you have, and you've really encouraged entrepreneurialism in the family, and you've created something very unique, an incubator investment bank. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you've seen that drive the entrepreneurial spirit?
We send our high school graduates. Not only we send them, they also want, many of them, I want to study in Germany. I want to study in Italy. Because through intermarriages, there are cousins from Italy, there are cousins in Germany, cousins in the US. I want to study in California. I say apply. you know. So now, fast forward, they come back with diplomas. They work for other people. Or if they do not work in our branches, you know, in order to grow that entrepreneurship in them, I came up with the idea of creating an interbank with a discretionary capital, meeting the regulatory. Over there, we don't have what you have over here. Over here, if you lend your brother $100,000, you have to charge interest, and that will go on your taxes. Over there, we don't have any of that yet. Thank God. Maybe in the future, I don't know. But in order to have them own their own businesses, I encourage them. I say, you studied in Germany, and that you went to the United States, you did your internship. Whatever is the business, you are a pharmacist, you are a doctor, you want to open a dealership, you want to have an engineering company, you want to have a sanitation company, whatever you want, you know, why don't you put together a business plan? Oh, but you know, what about the finance? I say, look, your parents, I'm sure they can finance you. They don't want to finance you, come to us, come to the family. Your parents' money is also here. So how am I to prepare a business plan? I said, look, if you don't know anybody, we will also provide you with members of our team, our accounting team, or finance team, analysts. They'll work with you, people your age, or because you know we have a lot of foreign employees over there. So they come back with that business plan. When it is approved, immediately there is a budget for it, and there is a timeline. And then I break it into a timeline where, look, we are your partner. We as a family, not Kamil. We are as a family, we are your partners. On day one, we own 100% of the company, and you are an employee. Your success will pay off for your 50%. Your failure, we will take over the company. Now, we know that on year one, year two, and part of year three, CapEx, let's say he is a dentist. He needs at least $100,000 in equipment and in, you know, setting up a nice, fancy practice. You are not going to show profit, but if you break even by the third year, your gift is 20%.
Oh, and is
Then
that
we go
the
back
same for all businesses?
business by business, but almost the same. The idea, Danielle, is not for the family to make money on our members.
Right.
The idea is entrepreneurs after entrepreneurs, just like the chain that I come from. You know, when people say, Kamil, who did you work for? I say 2 employers. Their names rhyme with each other. One is called God and one is called Dad. So those 2 guys, they were my bosses, and they still my bosses, even though my dad joined the other employer.
Oh,
So,
I love that.
yeah.
I love that.
So I want them all to have their own businesses. Now you get married, good, 10% extra.
Oh,
When you have the first child, you get another 10%. Why? Because the child is the bond of the marriage. Now we go back to that divorce business that we mentioned 5 minutes ago.
Right.
Now, the poor second, third, fourth children, they only get 5%. But by the time you are 50-50, I'm going to award you another right. If you keep the company for 10 years showing profit, you can offer to buy the family out for a market price. But we will always maintain 10% because we like to maintain accountability. You know what I mean? We want to know that you are doing the right thing, reputation, growth, employment, all that stuff. Now, in the process also to add more to them, Danielle, what I do, if your cousin, boy or a girl, come back also from the West as a dentist or a surgeon or whatever, gynecologist, whatever the practice, I don't want them to do the internship in a public hospital. If you can take them under your wing, you will get credits for that. But look at this. If after they finish their internship, you build a relationship over and beyond being cousins to open a branch. So now you have 2 clinics. Both of you will be rewarded.
Wow.
So now what we're creating, just from this example, or if it is a car dealership or it is a pharmacy, become pharmacies. CVS, I'm sure started with one, Walgreens started with one, and then they grew and then they went public. It's all entrepreneurial. But I like to keep or create into the family. This started about 6 years ago. And then since then, all branches contribute to the pool.
Amazing.
You know, not only because their children are involved, but why is the accountability? Because there is a branch that does not have the youngsters to come back and open businesses. I must protect their interest. You know, just like here, when someone say pay taxes for high school, and you say, but I don't have kids.
Yeah.
You know, so what did town tell you? Well, move to another town. Yeah, so that's where that is the value of the interbank. I mentioned this for the first time, right around the time of COVID, early in 2020. I was in San Francisco in a private club, and I've been immediately asked by people, Kamil, would you write an ebook about this?
Yes, honestly.
You know, so as it is developed, I wanted to wait to see the results, so we can have also case study.
Absolutely.
It's a theory from Kamil's imagination. It is a theory that we put it to practice and it flourished.
Well, and James, one of our audience, asks, you know, how many family members and how many businesses are there?
James, when I took over, or how many are they today?
Yeah, very great question.
Well, I would say all the branches today, and that number is probably is since January. It's there were 321. Now we're talking about 330. But the branches are responsible for their own.
Yeah.
Like, for example, the branch of the family that own dry docks, that ships from Asia park in Dubai and in Abu Dhabi and in Bahrain for maintenance and for tune-ups and stuff. They really do not need any financial help. You know what I mean? Or the branches that invest in renewable energy. You know, over there we have free solar from heaven, and we have oil and gas coming from the bottom. So capitalizing on all this, there is always capital. And that's why when I am on stage, and frequently I say, Kamil, you spend time on stages. I say, look, I moderate to educate. It's all about the audience. Nobody ever hear me or ever say that Kamil ever had a fund or raised money for fund. I always say we are strictly LPs. We invest direct and we co-invest. We do not raise capital. We use our own, and we don't look for deals because wealth management, family offices, attorneys, leading corporate accounting firms, due to privacy, we get deals early on. I got it in the office in Dubai. And then when I'm here, I get executive summaries from my team and, you know, prepare for meetings. And then here I contact the sponsor or the future partner, unless they are existing partner, you know, to visit with them, lunch with them, meet, go visit the site if it is, you know, wherever it is in the US. So it's all about the audience, and our investment liquid is comfortable, even though we do have a strategy. And that's something also must be mentioned. Single family office must have a strategy. Never change the strategy. Just remember the advice from one of the Rocky movies. If you get punched in the face during the first round and you start to see stars, don't forget the strategy. Do not become a street slugger, just throwing punches everywhere, and then you will lose in few rounds. No, stick to the strategy. You did your due diligence. You know what you're getting into. There was a hiccup in the beginning, the first 2-3 months. Then stick to the strategy, analyze the mistakes, set a team to solve it, put a budget and timeline, and you will get out of it.
Wow. Well, thank you for being so generous and sharing your strategies with us. I'll take one more question quickly from the audience. Erie asks, well, he shares your approach to the Family Incubator Bank is unique. I'm curious, what key criteria do you use to identify which ventures deserve investment from family office resources? I mean, do you ever deny family members that have a business plan that you just don't think is ethical or cut to invest in?
I wouldn't do it arbitrarily. If it is done, it's because, what's the lady's name that asked? What's the name?
It was Erie.
Okay. It's about the timing and also the market conditions. And if the business plan has voids in it that can increase the probability of failure or of not being practically good to work or to fit into the portfolio. But just to say no because one family for me is more favorable than another family, there is no such thing. Just like our three kids, my three kids are equal and we all equal. I mean, for me, I believe we are all equal under the Creator. The family is the same way.
That's amazing.
The no is always with an explanation, and the yes will always even still have questions. And I exercise the same for the lady who asked, and also even in my investments.
Yeah.
When I say, for example, if someone offer me a piece of real estate and say, based on income, they're looking for, I'm gonna throw a number, $50 million. And we go back and say, we give you an offer for 43. I do tell them why, using the algorithm and using also all the math that is required and ratios that shows that they are over asking, and that will be our offer.
Oh,
Right.
Thank you for that answer. And I have to apologize. It's Irie. I pronounced terribly, butchered your name, so I apologize. And I just have one more from the audience. There's tons of questions from the audience. Before I go back to my own, though, I love this question from Kat. She asks, in your opinion, is being an entrepreneur learned or are there born entrepreneurs? Is it in your DNA?
No. Leaders are made. Leaders are not born leaders. Now, let's take a few of those prophets and holy people in different religions and different lands. Now, leaders are cultivated. It's not an inborn ability. It is the circumstances. I give you an example for the late Kat, you said, right?
Yes.
Kat, I don't think, like when people ask me, Kamil, are your boys like you? I said, there are no two people the same.
Right.
One reason, my parents are not my kids' parents.
Yeah.
So that now we're talking about different eggs and different DNAs.
Absolutely.
Now, second, the circumstances. I can hear alone. My boys are not alone.
Right.
I learned, and I remember I was at the Bellagio in Vegas speaking at the AICPA one time, and the gentleman asked, he said, Kamil, we hear a lot about success stories, but how about we ask you, did you ever make a mistake or had a bad story? I said, can you come closer? I don't hear you. So he came down the aisle. I said, come closer. I could hear him from the first time, but I kept making the man 3 times come closer and people laughing. I said, you see this gray hair? Everyone is a mistake.
There you go. You're like, do you want me to spend the rest of the day sharing?
Till now, I see him frequently. He says to me, oh, Kamil, I see you making more mistakes. I said, thank God I am. But my successes are still greater.
Oh, that's incredible. I love that. Well, and so you were talking about an AI conference that you were speaking about. I know that you're very involved in the AI space, the data centers. I've heard you say that AI isn't just a trend, but it's here to stay. And I'm curious how you see it. I mean, it's really disrupting every industry, but is it affecting the way that you run your single family office and wealth management?
It is affecting positively for those who appreciate it. For those who put just, they are blindfolded and say, no, I'm not from that generation. What do you mean? This is not about a generation. There always was an AI. AI is the icing on the cake. AI is a solution. You know, when we had steamships, AI made them diesel, you know, and AI made the diesel nuclear. And then the AI made the nuclear. Now they're looking into hydrogen just on ships that cross the oceans. Look at the windshield wipers. They used to work on a vacuum from the engine. I'm an antique car collector. I know about this.
Oh, right. There we go.
But now you have intermittent. You can put them in 4 speeds. Your mirror has a light telling you there is someone in your blind spot. All this is a solution to make things better, to reduce accident, to improve productivity, to improve the workplace for employees, to protect the environment. You know, we talk frequently about emission and recapture, about the valuation of carbon credits. I mean, all these things that you and I can talk about this in maybe 15 different episodes.
Absolutely.
But definitely, without AI is doing a great job for humanity, and they are to be supported. Not everyone has to become a unicorn or have an exit with multiple X's. But in a recent conference in New York at the Union League Club, the panel was about M&A, and the moderator is a leading attorney in M&A in New York. He asked the other 3 gentlemen who were corporate, and they are fund managers. He said, Kamil, I'm holding the difficult question for you, as you always ask for the difficult questions. I said, go ahead, Ron. He said, what is the role today of AI in our life? I said, look, we are not going to go to our entire life. Let's stick to M&A. Today, the highest volume of M&A is CEOs and CFOs. They go out in the market looking for new technologies to improve their operations so they can elevate their valuation.
Absolutely.
So years ago, they looked for a better CEO, or they looked for a technology that Qualcomm owns. If I add it to my production line, I can produce my widgets in 40% less time and 50% less cost. Today, it's about AI. So AI definitely is here to stay. And I know I cannot follow enough because there are always new ideas. And I encourage everyone to stick to it, to encourage their family, to encourage all generations. And just talking about generation, there is something for the audience. When I was growing up, there were 2 generations. Today we have 2 branches. Yeah, 2 branches. I can envision them in our family. They have 5 generations. People are living in their 90s. And look at Warren Buffett. How come Warren Buffett can make, you know, strategic decisions in his mid-90s? God bless him. I mean, we saw Larry Silverstein the other day on Tuesday. God bless him, 93 years old. You know, and the man was sitting on stage. Okay, his children walked next to him, but the man was coherent. He spoke nicely. He spoke strategically, and we all enjoyed, and we gave him a standing ovation. So and then the second generation can be 75 or 70, and then 55, and then maybe, you know, then we have another range. But today, kids coming out of college smart. They know about technology. They know about corporate hierarchy and the structure. They lack on some, like me, like others. You know, you learn as you go, as long as you have the affinity and the desire. You learn.
Those 2 criteria. I love that. Wow. Meltem from our audience has given you a compliment. Kamil, you are very engaging and smooth. Do you have any thesis when you are creating a family fund?
Can you say that again, please?
Definitely. I realized do you have any thesis when you are creating a family fund?
I do not care. I do not create family funds. I create a family because I do sit. Malcolm, you said, right?
Meltem.
Oh, Meltem. Sorry.
Hopefully I'm pronouncing it right.
I sit on the board of advisors with other families, but I tell them, I say, I come in as a strategic advisor on growth trajectory. If you want to grow vertically, I'm your advisor. But for your internal affair, your existing board of advisors have to deal with it. You know, because that consume a lot of time, and that will take me from other opportunity costs.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So I do not start funds, and just for one reason. I mean, even though many say, Kamil, you know, a lot of people love you, trust you, you are welcome every country, every place you go. I said, you know what? I have an identity. I am an LP, strictly LP. As soon I start a fund, Milton, I'm going to be your competitor, and then I will lose you. I did not recruit you. I did not cultivate our relationship to lose you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, and probably I'm one of the few investors that people testify for this, where I'm the only one who publicly say what I do not invest in. I have nothing against those industries that I don't invest in. I just don't want to waste your time. I just don't want to take your effort, your email, sending me the deck, sending me the teaser, calling me for a Zoom, and then you say, oh, Kamil is so arrogant. He didn't give me the time. No, I did say publicly, I don't invest into liquor. I don't invest into firearms. I don't invest into pork. You know, I don't invest in tobacco and cannabis. Send me anything else you want. You know, but definitely, but I do this. I have nothing against people who invest in tobacco. I have friends who invest in lumber. And I say, I don't invest in lumber because cutting trees is not synonymous with Kamil, who developed an overarching policy on ESG and protecting the environment. I would be the biggest hypocrite if you see me with the cigarettes.
Right.
You know what I mean? I do cheat on a glass of wine every once in a while. And I say this publicly. God knows, I know, you know.
But you are human.
You know, but would I invest into what I say? Like, how many times people stand up in the audience and say, I have an investment that will in cannabis that make you $1 billion. I say, my grandfather did that before. I don't have to invest in cannabis. So I do not invest in cannabis. Did I ever try cannabis? I never tried cannabis, and I said, and I want someone to challenge me on this. So, but I do this in respect for other people's time and efforts. You know, I'm not your client in this. Now, if you come to me and say, Kamil, do you know anybody? Can you help me? Believe me, if I do, I will, for no benefit, for no interest.
That's amazing. We have another great question from Kat. She asks, how would you or your family invest $1 million in today's market?
How would I invest in $1 million? I mean, it is definitely a small investment. I tell you what, I will bring in our young investors, our young entrepreneurs, to sit down in my conference room, and I will ask them on your behalf that someone asked me this question, and I want you to allocate this money. So go do your homework and come back to me. And if I get to know who you are or your business email, I seriously, with all honesty, I'll keep you posted.
That is so generous. Kat Aguilar-Smith. So I'm sure she will be following up with you to get that answer.
Will be my pleasure.
Young entrepreneurs. Amazing. Well, Susanna asks, Kamil, you are an inherent serial entrepreneur as well. What are you working on in parallel to the family office? If not, any plans for the near future?
Susanna, when you say in parallel, is like as an individual, I will not do anything as an individual. Because people know me as the family, and everything is for the family. There were times when, and I told this story in Pace University last month. I'm coming, Susanna, this is for you. I know who is Susanna and her husband. Yeah, great people. And coming from the Philippines, from Manila to Hong Kong. we're sitting in business class, and the man sitting next to me were talking about business, and he was talking to me about some technology they want to compete with America. Okay. So, okay, I mean, we had the conversation. The flight is 3.5 hours. We land. The man insisted that he invite me for dinner. I told him during the conversation what hotel I'm staying at in Kowloon in Hong Kong, close to the Admiralty, former Admiralty of England. And he said, I'll send the driver at 7. I said, fine. My God, I mean, there was like several people there. So introduce him as his investment committee, and they are investing into some technology that compete with a technology of NVIDIA. You guys start to figure it out.
Yes.
And I mean, then they want to show me a demo in their office. And make the long story short, the investment was into DeepSeek, into the technology that compete with ChatGPT. I mean, look, I didn't think they can compete with NVIDIA, so I should have given them a bigger check, but the check I gave them has been well rewarded. And, things that all this tie back to the relationships, to the diplomacy, to how you use language to reflect your status, reflect your class, reflect your code of ethics. You know, all this come to play in your life. I'm a big critic of leadership. And how many times I sat down, I wish I have the time to write about leadership.
You need to.
Envision it, you know. And a good friend of mine who's also a graduate, Paul from Fordham, he earned his master's degree, and he was really the man who opened that relationship with Fordham. When I mentioned this to him, in 2 days, I had someone from England call me and say, Kamil, I heard from Paul Gray that you want to write a book about leadership, and he told us about your vision. I would love to assign one of my ghostwriters.
Yes.
Do it. I said, you know what?
Do it.
Not be fair to do it now, but I like to take you up on the offer. He said, the offer is open anytime. Call us. They are the leading publishing company in England.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you just you feel like you have so much more to give and to accomplish. You're not ready to write quite yet.
Look at the daily event.
Yes.
How many times I open conversation by saying, I live by 4 C's. The first one is COVID. The second one is capital. The third one is climate. And the fourth one is conflict. And all those have leadership.
Yes.
And all made mistakes. And they still making mistakes. Some because of power, some because of economy, some because of whatever experience. But those leaders have impacted our lives in many different ways. In the last 5 years now, almost 5 years, since 2020. And leadership is becoming a problem in the world, where the more conflict, it doesn't say to me that humans have changed, because we learned in our books that the first 2 brothers, one killed the other.
Right.
And supposedly they were the only family on the planet.
Right.
I would say to the idiot, even though I'm from the same tree, I would say to him, you are an idiot. You killed your own brother. Why don't you move 5 miles and he will never see you for the rest of your life? Because there's so much forest and desert and dinosaurs will eat you maybe before you kill your brother. You know, so it's not only human nature. It is the lack of good leadership, where conflicts can be avoided. If, like today, we sit here, we talk. I know today I'm doing 99% of the talking, but normally...
You're here to share with us. You are our guest, and you have imparted so much wisdom.
It's all about open the route of communication.
Yes.
We will come to an accord. Yeah. Okay, we take, you know, when we heat up and we cannot see eye to eye, the best thing you do, just like we used to press that red button on the old phone, that's called hold. Yes. You know? Let's go for a coffee break and come back with the new spirit. Yes. Let's go for a breather, here you say in English, and come back. We will come to a solution where we both are winners. But you know, I'm stronger than you. I was in a conference again in New York with a well-known conference, And the panel before me, someone who claimed to be a macroeconomist. I mean, I'm a macroeconomist by education, but I do not say what he's saying. Never. He was asked, what's the future of the petrodollar? Because, you know, the petrodollar had a 50-year agreement and it ended in June, by the way. So, but that doesn't mean it ended. I mean, still, Saudi Arabia and other countries are committed to the United States. We peg our currency to the US dollar. So instead of he giving that person a good economically directed answer, you know what he said? He said, I wouldn't worry. United States has 11 aircraft carriers. Nothing will happen to our dollar. You know? So when I went on stage, it was with the lady also known in the business. We're talking about carbon credits and also about emission. I said, before I start the conversation about the environment, I have something to say to the previous speaker. United States is not a bully. When you say that the United States can protect the dollar because of the 11 carriers, you are portraying the United States as a bully. The United States is not a bully. This is a land of opportunity. People come here uninvited. I am one of them. It is not about aircraft carriers. It's about, look at the unicorns, look at the innovation, look at the medical research, look at the hospitals. Why do people come here to the best clinics? You know, if it is the Mayo Clinic or it is the Massachusetts General Hospital or others down in Atlanta, why? Why they don't go to Germany and go to China? And maybe there are other good hospitals, but United States is not a bully. And I definitely took it as an insult that day. But then we went back to talk about carbon and everything else.
Well, I'm glad you defended our position, and I just think that's a beautiful explanation. And I can't believe, Kamil, I mean, I haven't looked up the clock, I just did. It's already past 2. I could spend all day with you, and this has just been such a fun conversation. And I thank all the participants who joined us. There were lots of questions we didn't get to, so I will be sure I will share those with Kamil. Kamil, what is the best way for people to connect and follow your work and find you online?
I am definitely on LinkedIn.
Perfect.
I mean, I apologize for many that asked me to be connected because I did reach the maximum allowed by LinkedIn, which is 30,000 a long time ago.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
As followers, you can welcome and stay in contact. Write me on LinkedIn. We will establish a thread that we can talk. We can talk on the phone. We can meet over Zoom or in person. And I also wrote, I'm sure other people too, asked LinkedIn several times, like, when you're going to expand this? So they said they might expand it to 50 or 100,000. And that will open more of interaction between people. But if you ask for to be a connection and you are not immediately accepted, do not take it as we ignored it. It is because of, you know, the medium, which is LinkedIn. They do have a policy, and we have to follow what they do. But yeah, I'm never hiding. I'm always out for people. And any question you have related to the business, you are very welcome.
Oh, thank you for that, Kamil. You're so generous. And for all of the attendees, this session is recorded, so I will follow up with an email sharing the recording. And for anyone you know that would have enjoyed this conversation, you are free to share it. And I've dropped my LinkedIn as well. Would love to connect with anyone. There's also an exclusive family office list offer through the end of the month if anyone is interested in exploring what we offer at familyofficelist.org. And I'm grateful to everyone and for this amazing hour with Kamil. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Danielle, we should make a sequel for this.
Absolutely. Part 2 in the works.
Thank you. Thanks to you, and thank you for everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.